the White Lotus also had some sacrifices, a few dead bodies to figure out this season. And now that season 2 is wrapped up, I think we should maybe just start with, did you feel like this lived up to the hype of season 1?
I think the White Lotus season 2 did live up to that hype, and in unexpected ways. I think when you analyze and reflect on season 2, which just concluded for us at HBO, it's like, wow, this is a different type of show. This has a different kind of comment, different kind of message than the first one. The first season's message was really effective and easy to understand and grasp, and I think much more pointed and specific. Whereas season 2, I think is a bit more insular, and I just didn't really see that coming. But I also was quite surprised and shocked at how effectively Mike White and friends were able to make Jennifer Coolidge's Tanya character, I think, significantly more compelling,
Mm.
and have Jennifer Coolidge giving a much more interesting performance, and just like the presence of that character felt really leveled up from a season where she won an Emmy for the role. So yeah, in short, season 2 I think was quite strong, and it was cool that it didn't just run back season 1 and do it all over again, and makes the season 3 prospect even that much more tantalizing. We know it has been officially renewed, but Mike Way has not written a script yet, so it sounds like that'll be a little bit more of a longer wait than we got between seasons 1 and 2. But obviously, I'm very excited for that because season 2, I think, kept you guessing in intriguing ways.
Yeah, completely agree that this lived up to the hype of season 1. And I have to be honest, like I was just really impressed with the fact that they got me to care about characters that I just thought I had no shot of really giving a shit about. And the I think the storylines that ended up being the most interesting to me were not the ones that at the start of the season felt the most interesting to me. By the end, the stuff with the couple, Harper and Ethan and Cameron and, oh boy, Megan Fahey, Daphne. Yes,
Yep.
Daphne.
Hmm.
I was interested, but not as interested as I was in the stuff with the Alfie and Dominic, with the father son dynamics. I think that there was an aspect of the overarching theme of sex in this season, and what it, like how it played out in different relationships, and what it helps people understand about themselves, that
Mm,
I found more interesting in terms of the generational dynamics than I did in terms of like the couple dynamics in a sense.
interesting.
I think for me, what I really like loved about it was like the interplay of money and sex. Whereas like the couples didn't have that, but with Lucia as a sex worker being such a crucial part of Alfie's storyline, as well as Dominic's, and Dominic's final decision at the end to give Alfie this money, knowing it was most likely just, being that Lucia was just using him. But in order to get his wife back, or at least have his son put a good
Yeah.
word in to get his wife back, I just found that also interesting. Like, how much would you pay to let it, like, in order to like get something like a favor like that? I just found so interesting. Like, instead of paying for sex, he was almost paying to like for the opportunity to like save his marriage. I just thought that was all really interesting. And then obviously at the end, you see how this whole experience has really impacted Alfie, and how, the grandfather turned his head to look at the girl, the father turned his head to look at the girl, and so did the son. So just really
Right.
thought that whole storyline was really fascinating to
Right.
watch grow.
Well, I think that, like, the connective tissue, it's just much more interesting between all these threads, where it's about, I think, transactional relationships in your lives, whether it's actual money, like you mentioned with like the DeGrasso family and Lucia and everything, or it's transactional love and marriage, like you have with uh Theo James and Megan Fahey, and then you eventually also get with Ethan and
Hmm.
Harper, and like they realize they are actually more similar to these people they thought they had nothing in common with than
Hmm.
they want to believe at the beginning. Um, and then even was it Valentina, the manager of the White Lotus Hotel, even she seeing the value in being more direct and transactional, and way she operates parts of her life as well. Like seeing, I think all of that kind of coalesce, I thought was really interesting and just really compelling. And even Tanya, right? Like she knows things are not right
Mhm.
for a while with quote hashtag these gays, but
Yeah,
she also just loves that they are giving her this fake love and having fun with her, and she's using that too, you know.
Yep,
And
totally.
it's actually, I think, like a really like effective way to wind down that character, because I thought she was just significantly less likable
Mhm.
in season one, and now yeah, like she's still like, she's a rich person who can't be happy kind of thing. It's not the most relatable thing in the world, but I think they just do so much more work, with this season. I think to make that feel effective, and like her, you know, kind of winning out, with the gun at the end there, and then going out in a almost slapstick humorous fashion.
Mhm.
It's like, oh wow, I think it was just actually like significantly more poignant than I could have ever expected it.
Completely agree. Tanya, like you said, season one, just pretty reprehensible. And season two, you come to like her so much more. And Jennifer Coolidge, I think, gives such a strong performance in those final two episodes as she's like, can tell something is off, regarding Greg and his relationship to these people. But she also is just kind of like in it for this experience and wanting to like get the most out of this. And, yeah, I thought it was hilarious watching her, like, try to act cool when she was, like, trying to, like, get to the end of the boat to, like, make a phone call, and then, like, came, like, running around the corner, and then just acted all cool, and then went running back around the corner. Thought that was great. Also, how did you feel about the cinematography when she started, like, shooting up the boat? Did you think that was a nice touch?
Yeah, I actually thought it was kind of cool. And
Mhm.
I like how it all ends there too, where there's no like final exposition where Tom Hollander is like, yes, me and Greg did it all along. You were right. Fuck you. I'm dead.
Yep,
Like, no, like that's not what this show's about. Just like this show isn't about are, are those kids of Daphne's actually Cameron's, or are they the trainer's kids? You
they're the
know,
trainers.
are Cameron and Daphne trying to get money from Ethan and Harper or something? Like all those like theorizing and things, like some of the stuff's easy to figure out and just plays out. Like obviously the stuff with the gays being out together, and some of it doesn't play out. But like none of that actually being determined is the point of this show. It's not a mystery box show. It's not a show that is interested in those theories. But that's actually what made this season so fun to me, was like the breadth of the theories that people had about this show. I think speaks to just how compelling this like motley crew of characters in the on these situations felt to people, you
Mhm.
know. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so I thought that cinematography was cool. It was kind of out of character for this show to this point, so it was kind of like a nice surprise in that regard. And yeah, I thought just in general, like the way everything happens with Tanya and the way she goes out was um, quite superb, honestly. Because I did not think she was going to be the dead body the entire time until I love when they did the fake out with Cameron and Ethan fighting in the shallows of the beach, and like, oh, one of them's going to drown the other one.
Mhm.
They fake you out. Neither one of them does that. And then when we got to the boat, and I was like, oh fuck. So now we know where the body's coming from, and that definitely surprised me.
Yeah, no, I had kind of thought it was either going to be that like all the gays were going to die but Tanya would live. Or my other theory was like Alfie kills like the pimp that was following Lucia around, like takes things too far. Um One of the storylines that I did not see coming when the season started, I don't think anyone could have because Leo Woodall wasn't in the first couple episodes, was his character is Jack, who's like in working with the gays and kind of indebted to them and doing their bidding. His relationship with Portia, played by Haley Lou Richardson, I
Mm,
found that to be a like an up and down storyline for me at times. Like I think it was in a lot of ways a just a side quest to Tanya's main quest. But I
yeah,
thought Haley Lou Richardson was really strong. And Leo Woodall just like having a lot of fun with this like ridiculous
yeah.
character.
Oh,
But
I'm from Essex.
yeah, it just didn't always work for me. It's something about it just felt
Yeah.
like I didn't always want to be with them.
Yeah, I think ultimately like that ends up being like a means to an end where like it pays off in the finale where you have uh what's her name, Portia and
Mhm.
Albie like reconnect by chance basically at the airport terminal and be like, hey, like can we get her? Can I get your number? Because like
Yeah.
they both just went through people that they actually were more compelled by, right?
Mhm.
It's like Portia pretty quickly after like the first day realized that like Jack is like maybe she didn't know that the insidious shit was going on, but like that guy wasn't actually as probably compelling to her intellectually as she wanted, but there's something about him, right? Something
He's hot.
an attraction thing, a
Yeah.
fun thing, right? Same thing with Albie and Lucia. He's like, oh well, let me get what go after this girl who's leagues out of my league,
Mhm.
stuff like that. And then what happens? They both kind of come back and realize they're kind of broken and need maybe each other. They can help each other out. Like I think that works. But yeah, I think you're right. Like towards the end there, like the Jack and Portia stuff, I was like, okay, it's a bit of wheel spinning as we're letting other stuff happen. I was able to tolerate it. Honestly, I really loved like everything that happens with Ethan and Harper because
Mm.
like Ethan going like batshit paranoid. I just thought that was like really effective too,
Yeah.
and I think the way like that relationship comes like full circle reminds me a bit of like the Jake Lacey Alexander Daddario
Mhm.
relationship at the end of season one, where it's like they don't feel as good about each other as they did, but they're gonna stick it out and realize that they're probably still better together, kind of deal. It's not a perfect analog, but like the way that they rekindled their romantic love for each other and their sexual attraction for each other
Mhm.
by becoming Cameron and Daphne in a certain regard. I was like I don't know, like that just really worked for me. And obviously, Aubrey Plaza's got a ton of plaudits this season as Harper. I love that she's
Yeah.
getting so much attention for this role, high profile role. I mean, this show was higher rated than season one, which is hard to believe because that show was popular at the time, got all that Emmy love. So really happy for her. But yeah, I thought that the Ethan Cameron, like all that stuff. By the end, I thought like I liked where it ended up.
Yeah, I liked where it ended up too, and I thought it was like when Ethan is just having a full break, and especially when he goes to Daphne and tells her that he thinks something's going on, and Megan Fahey in that moment just completely like crushed that scene. She watching her facial response would like go from like betrayal and hurt to like almost like dissociation to like okay, let's well come on this walk with me, let's go check this out. And obviously you don't know what happens. I think it's pretty much insinuated that they went and had sex, and
Right.
then Ethan and Aubrey Plaza are kind of on the same level, and they both can kind of accept this is where they're at. And I definitely I liked it all. I think for me like the stuff where um, Harper is like spiraling. It's like episode maybe like 4 or 5,
Right, with
and
the
she gets
condom
super
wrapper.
drunk. Yeah, I thought that was like my favorite Plaza episode. She's just on her A game, just
Right.
crushing it. And the stuff between her and Theo James, like really spicy. Like like
Yeah.
when he's grabbing her at the table, I was like, oh damn, like they are just crushing this like dynamic so well.
I mean, at Theo James, I feel like he came into our lives with Divergent or the second Divergent, whatever the timing was, and like since then, I feel like he hasn't been in like too much like great stuff, but I
Hmm.
thought he was great, perfectly cast as
Yeah.
Cameron. I don't know, something about Ethan just being so unable to communicate with Harper. It's like we didn't do anything.
Hmm.
You're lying to me. Like
I know.
the dude just sucked ass, honestly. Um, and on the opposite side of the spectrum, you have F. Murray Abraham as this like non-PC old man, but like his line readings were so fucking funny, so much.
Yeah, I didn't say this at the beginning, but I really liked going back to like the generational storylines about how like he's basically rejected by the family that they find there on the island, right? They don't want anything to do with him. They don't care that this could be a distant relative, even though they don't understand that that's even why they're there, sort of thing. And then to see that come around with Dominic, where he's like fighting so hard to like get his family back, and like the idea of like money and sex being this thing that's like trying to like rip this family apart, but also hold it together at the same time in so many different ways. I just thought was so interesting. Um, I actually felt like F. Murray Abraham, you know, after that scene with the relatives on the island, kind of sidelined for the most part. Didn't really get a lot to do in the last couple episodes, which a little disappointing. I almost wish he had a little bit more to do with the singer, and I never remember her name.
Uh, is it A? Something?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Fuck,
Is
I
it
forgot.
Mia? Yeah,
Mia.
it's Mia,
Yeah, that's it. Lucia's
played by
friend.
Beatrice Grano, and in some ways, the most poetic final shot of Lucia and Mia walking down the streets of Sicily, arm in arm, with these like lavish, like new clothes on, and just like completely taking these like dumb Americans for a ride and getting everything that they wanted. I just thought was so poetic. I'm really excited to see where this goes next. Apparently, Mike White has said that he thinks Portia and Greg's storylines may carry through to the third season. But out
Huh.
of all the characters that were here, who would you like to see come back in the third season?
Yeah, good question. Obviously, Tanya's off the table. Um, just technically, an answer to this could be Laura Dern as the one episode voice
Mhm.
of Dom's estranged wife, Albie's mom. That's kind of like I think an obvious like technical continuation slash stunt casting option. But assuming that's not chosen, yeah, I think Haley Richardson makes sense here. Um, you know, I don't know. Like, could you do Aubrey Plaza as like more of a supporting character and not have her essentially focus as Tanya was this year? It's tough because I think like all the arcs are really satisfying. I think in White Lotus
Mhm.
season 2 that I think you have to get creative and clever to bring someone back. But then again, that's how people felt about Tanya as well, and they made that work. So I don't know
Well,
who comes to mind for you.
Dave, this is my pitch to Mike White to hire me. Here's who you carry through. It's Mike Imperioli with Laura Dern. And what they're
Oh
going to do is they're going to be going to a White Lotus vacation in the Alps to save their marriage or to try to rekindle their love. But while they're there, Mike Imperioli's Dominic is being tempted to sleep with all these people, right? And so then
yeah,
it's about
sure.
like, has he actually grown? Has he not? And because they're in the Swiss Alps, you can tie in all this Sound of Music type stuff and kind of pull in some of the like Nazism that's been or neo-Nazism that's been on the rise, and like have people actually learn their lessons or not, and that will be the through line of the overarching theme of season three. So
Compelling pitch.
Mike
Compelling.
White, hire me.
He has said that he has interest in Asia for a third season.
Wouldn't mind
So
that.
we'll see. But I think the big takeaway is that he only just finished editing season 2, so there's no season 3 treatment. There's no season 3 script, let alone casting or production start date. So I don't think we're
We'll see
getting
it
it
in
next year.
2024.
2024. It sounds like.
Yeah, seems that way to me. Overall, very pleased with this. I just hope I hope that they get some other great performers. I'm sure there's a lot of people who want to be doing this, and whenever it's on, I'll be watching.